Welcome to the Killer Frogs, the podcast all about TCU athletics from the fans' point of view. My name is Sean Fouché, and this is Season 4, Episode 14 for November 28th, 2017. Quick programming note, have to apologize for last week's podcast. For those of you who've been listening, and we do appreciate our loyal listeners, last week's podcast, I'm going to have to say the dog ate it. We had some audio problems. Landry Burdine was on. It was a fantastic podcast. You're just going to have to take my word for it. But unfortunately, the audio didn't come across, and it was just me basically mumbling for an hour and a half. So we'll have Landry on in a future podcast, so apologies to him. But on tonight's panel, we've got Killer Frog Emeritus Wes Phelan. Wes, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
We got TCU Hall of Famer W.C. Nix. Hey, Dubber.
Hey, good Sunday. Looking forward to next week.
Are you still camping out? Is that what this is?
I'm camping out. I'm just camping out on this podcast. Hey, I didn't know we were going live. My wife would kill me, so I'm just going dark.
Oh man! And we have the boss, Ryan Zeller. Hey, Ryan.
Hey there.
Hey, I saw your boots on Friday. Those things look fantastic.
Thank you. I got a lot of compliments. I wore them. I think I wore them Saturday, and then I did wear them again today. So,
you know, I got a birthday coming up in 2 weeks, so I'm just saying.
Wes, wait till we get to the ML Eddie spot, then you can beg for boots. How about that? All right. Well, before we jump into Baylor Hate Week, we got a little bit of news. Want to kind of get a shout out to both Jamie Dixon and Coach Peebley for the women's and men's basketball team. They won their tournaments over the weekend, and also to Jill Kramer, the women's volleyball team swept Oklahoma, which was a really nice way to kind of end the season. So congratulations to Coach and all you women and men's teams, because you guys did a fantastic job. Way to represent the Frogs.
Way to go.
Yep, nice job.
All right, but the thing we're all going to be talking about, Baylor Hate Week. It's finally come to a close, and was it everything we expected, guys?
Yeah, and then some.
Yep.
Other than that first offensive series at TCU where they got the safety on us, yeah, it was pretty much everything I thought it should be.
Well, I figured, it's poor Baylor. We got to spot them 9 points just to make it fair.
Well, that's true. Good point.
Well, I thought they'd come out and fight for a quarter or two, and they did. They did a good job, and then I don't care what anybody says. You got the Big 12. I mean, our guys, that last game is a hard game to get through, because you can say it or not, but their eyes on the prize also. They know they got to get through the game, but I don't think any of us thought that we weren't going to win. And so I think they kind of, when the fight started, that's when it got interesting. But besides that, it was just kind of a ho-hum business type day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll definitely cover that fight and the aftermath of it here in just a few minutes. But just to recap, in case you didn't watch the game, TCU defeats Baylor 45-22. The score doesn't really tell the whole story, as Deborah was saying. Baylor did come out. They were there to play a game, as we all thought they would, but they really only played for about 2 quarters, and then, as Gary Patterson's defense has done pretty much all the second half of the season, shut down the Baylor offense, and it got ugly really, really quick. Let's take this half by half, because this game really kind of was a story of 2 halves. Let's start off talking about what Wes was discussing with that first series from TCU, where on the second play of the game, Kenny Hill is stripped in the end zone, recovered by a Frog, but it ends up being a safety for Baylor. Were you guys kind of feeling a little trepidation there after seeing that first series?
I was just saying, what happened to our offensive line?
I've been saying that for a couple of weeks.
Those guys came storming in there. We should have seen that coming, but we didn't. And they got the strip the ball, like you said, but fortunately we recovered. But we gave up 2 points, and we had to kick back to them. So not a great way to start, but we got it back pretty quickly.
I just think, I think they came out playing a lot more emotion than we did. I don't think our offensive line looked great for the first whole half, really. They did some good stuff, then we did some bad stuff. For the first time, Hicks couldn't run the ball. he just didn't seem like he had any openings, no holes, no anything. The big man ran pretty good, but that was more of the second half and stuff like that. But I don't know, we were just flat. It just seemed like we came out flat on the offense, especially.
You think they came in with the attitude, we're going to kick these guys in the teeth anyway, so why put out too much effort? I
don't know if they thought it like that, but I think that's really what happened. I think they came out there kind of, we can give it, we can give it a good college effort and we're going to beat them. I think they had that attitude. So in some ways, the bad thing is we gave up the safety and then we gave up a quick touchdown to them. All of a sudden we're down 9-0. The good thing is we got down 9-0 a little bit. I think that kind of woke us up a little bit. Because then we jumped back and, we kind of went back ahead 21-9, and I thought we were fixing to, all right, we're going to put it away there. And then it's like we went back to idle mode again. I mean, there for a little bit.
Yeah,
I just think I really believe they
go later.
Yeah, I just think they were trying to. I really think in some ways, you watch everything. I just think they were trying to get out of this game as healthy as they could and with a win.
Yeah, they definitely went into a little bit of an offensive shell, but I can see the logic. Why put out too much effort if you don't need to, and you certainly don't want to show Oklahoma a bunch. But
I thought Patterson played Jade too on defense. I thought the defense was pretty
certainly in the first quarter he did.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see any super exotic blitzes or anything. You saw some of his normal stuff.
But you saw really, some missed coverages, that's for sure.
Oh, missed coverages, missed tackles.
Yeah, oh my God.
Miss everything.
Well, missed tackling's certainly been kind of the MO of this defense all season long. We've had a lot of problems with tackling. Hasn't necessarily just been this particular game, but the bigger problem was just the flat out just missed coverages, like you were saying. I mean, the two big plays that Baylor scored touchdowns on were 50 yards plus, and that's just it's inexcusable. And when we get to next week's game, you can't do that against Baker Mayfield and expect to win the game.
I'm kind of glad that. I mean, I'm not totally glad it happened, but I kind of am because that's kind of how Oklahoma hurt us too. Some was their running back coming out of the backfield.
Yeah,
and I think Baylor kind of exploited something for us that maybe will help us be more prepared for Oklahoma. Now one of them was a defensive end, Bosa. Now for all his great sacks, that one long touchdown pass going toward the south end zone, the running back out in the visitor side flat, that was his guy, and he did not go out there. And I mean, and everybody else was locked up man to man. When he didn't go, it was over.
And Patterson let him know about it too.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
It was so funny. Patterson went over there and was griping at him as he should have been. And then I think he finally just was like, okay, I can't gripe anymore. And he walks off. And then it was like watching the National Geographic channel where the animal is like stalking his prey. He sat there and walked back and forth in front of Bosa a few times, just giving him the evil eye. And oh my gosh, it was hilarious. But but I think earlier in the game he did give Bosa a thumbs up, so it all evens out.
Well, yeah. 5.5 sacks will get a high five or a fist bump or something from Patterson.
Yeah. At least an attaboy, right?
Well, yeah, at least an attaboy.
If you paid attention to Patterson on the sideline, Bosa wasn't the only one. He was up and down the sideline from Coach Cumby to everybody else. I mean, he was the only one that I think that was, he wanted to get rid of this game, get it out of hand, and get it the score up there and get it gone. And
I'll tell you, Gary, because I used to walk the sidelines quite a bit, taking pictures down there, and he's going to have a whipping boy on the coaching staff. For years, it was Dan Sharp. Now it looks like it's Cumby every once in a while. Gets the rap, and some of the players. And you know how Gary sounds after a game. So you can, as I used to walk behind that bench, I could hear him screaming. You just hear, he's so hoarse he can't articulate anything, but they all seem to get the message.
Oh yeah,
it's just hilarious to hear that go on.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the towards the end of the first half. Like you said, Dubber, it looked like we were starting to run away with it, up 21-9, and then another long touchdown and a field goal towards the end of the first half, and now all of a sudden it's a game going into halftime, 21-19. Excuse me. We also had a couple of issues. The looks like Gladney was benched for most of this game for I don't know what. I don't know. Did you guys get to see any of that? Because all we heard up in the press box was that Gladney and coach were just going at it on the sideline. Anybody get a chance to see that live?
I did. Did anybody else?
No, I didn't.
No.
And then I went back and watched it on the recorded TV because it had it from the front angle because I was on the back side of him. And he just, I don't really know what he was yelling at him about because I don't watch the players that closely, but he obviously did something that Gary didn't like. And just like normal, Patterson went over there and got in his face, and he just looked away. And I want to say he looked away because he was probably tearing up and he didn't want Patterson to see that. But he, as soon as he looked away, Patterson just jumped all over him and was pointing at his chest. And then he jumped up from the bench. And after that, everybody sitting around him grabbed his shoulders and, set him back down pretty quickly because he wasn't going to have it. He's probably beating himself up enough and didn't want Patterson beating up on him anymore verbally. But, yeah, it wasn't a good situation. The TV caught it, and the commentators on TV talked about it. Wasn't a good look, but that's just when you get a lot of emotion in these games. So I think having emotion is better than not having any emotion.
Yeah, I'd have to say I think Patterson had a certain expectation for this game, and I don't think his defense was actually doing what he expected, at least in the first half.
Yeah. And
I think he was really upset with a lot of position players in that first half. Yeah, Bosa's sacks were great overall, but I think there were a lot of miscues and a lot of things that just their heads just weren't in the game for whatever reason. And I think it just really irked him off. And unfortunately, Gladney was there when he finally blew up.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's what I hate about the cameras that are on the sideline and this and that. That happens in every game. You see it, and a lot of times you don't see it, and sometimes it gets emotional, and I'm glad he probably jumped up, and that probably, that's probably why he set the rest of the game. But, I don't know. If you played enough football, you've gotten one of them before.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the way I look at that. And so, I mean, I wish he'd have played, but, Patterson probably knew it was a perfect time to go ahead and send a message, and send the message, and it wouldn't hurt them too bad.
Yeah.
The only difference is he gets a little fired up and, and kind of jumps up and goes back down, and he gets the whole half. That's the difference between our coach and the Oklahoma coach.
Mm-hmm.
He got a series
Yeah.
or two, and we'll talk about that later too. But,
Well, it's an interesting, though, comparison between the two coaching styles. And, yeah, we'll definitely talk about that later. But it does show that when Patterson's upset with you, it's not just going to be for one series. He'll let you know, and if you've done something wrong in his book, you're going to sit. You're going to be benched, and he'll have another guy up there to do it, whether the game's on the line or not. I mean, you got to do your job.
Well, there's a line out there that I would suspect that Patterson doesn't think you're ever you should cross, and some coaches allow it. So, but he I saw him chew on plenty of people, and if you notice, most of them have figured out, look at him or look like you have that glazed zombie look or whatever, but just don't say anything and take it and then walk away. And but if you jump up and of course, I don't know what he had to say back. Usually,
oddly, the TV didn't catch that.
Hey, usually when you do that, it's not good.
Yeah.
I've done that once or twice in my life, but I did it once way back in a practice. I'll never forget that with my offensive coordinator. And I won't exactly say what we had to say to each other, but we had a couple of things to say to each other. And I do remember that I got to run a whole bunch. And everybody got to watch me.
Did you guys break out the silk gloves and slap each other across the face?
No. When I took about 3 steps, I was like, this is not going to be good. I kind of come back to reality. And Sure enough, he set the whole offense out there, and they were all mad at me by the end of it because I was still mad. And he kept asking me if I wanted to quit. I ran until I cramped and laid down. Couldn't get up. And, of course, all the offensive players were mad at me because all they're thinking about is I'm making them late chow hall. They're ready to eat.
You're a troublemaker, Dummer. You've always been a troublemaker.
Yes, exactly.
Well, like you said, Frogs go into halftime. They're up 21-19, although everybody in the stadium doesn't really feel good at this point in time. And Ryan, real quick, I have to ask, how many fingers did you have covering your eyes starting the second half?
Honestly, I've been nervous at a lot of games this year, but Baylor, even at halftime, I had no doubt that we were going to win. I was fully 100% confident, which is sometimes not a good thing, but yeah, I had no doubt. So I was watching with both eyes wide open.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll be the same in the championship game.
Yeah.
But, Frogs come out in the halftime. It looks like a completely different team. A couple of notable things, though, in the second half. We had Baylor was the first team in 6 games to actually score any points in the second half against the Frogs, which unfortunately, because the podcast dumped last week, you guys didn't hear that I actually made that prediction. I actually said that Baylor would score a field goal in the second half. So I had a told you so moment, but I can't prove it because we don't have any audio for it.
Hey, no proof, no proof.
I know.
We don't believe it.
Right. Doesn't count. Doesn't go on the scoreboard. Sorry. But that was interesting play because that was one of those broken plays. Quarterback keeper ran down there. It looked like a blade of grass actually ended up tripping him up inside the 10. But the defense held strong and held him to a field goal, which I think was a win after that particular series. What do you guys think about that?
I think that woke the defense up.
Yeah, I think Patterson also had a talk with him like, hey, we're not going to start out after that, And so I thought it was a win too, I mean, realistically, you're just not going to be able to continue to shut people out game in, game out. And so giving up 3, hey, it happens, and kind of got them going in the right direction real quick, I thought.
Well, if you look at it like this, in the past 6 games, we've given up 3 points in the second half.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I
don't know what the stats are as far as how much we've outscored opponents in the second half of every game in the last 6 games, but it's got to be ridiculous. It's just a testament of what coach has been able to do with second half adjustments and what this defense has been able to do as far as rallying behind what coach is telling them and just execute. I mean, that's just what you got to do. But the other big thing that happened in the second half that I know we all want to talk about was late in the third quarter, the crowd looked like they were just asleep, kind of have that glazed over zombie look that you were talking about, Dubber. And then all of a sudden a fight breaks out. What do you guys think about the rumble at the Carter?
I'm offensive lineman.
Christians versus Baptists.
Hey, I'm an offensive lineman, so it didn't bother me one bit. I mean, I know Patterson said there's no blah blah for it. I agree with him to a point and all that, but hey, you know what? They started it. We pretty much finished it, I thought, with the few guys we had over there.
Okay, did anybody see the video of Patterson when he realized what was going on? Him running, trying to do like the professional run walk out onto the field to get in front of the guys to get them back onto the sideline.
Oh, yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah, he was all business.
I felt so bad.
Oh, yeah. He was.
The crowd is we're just egging on the players because we all woke up and golly, I was ready to go in and play, weren't y'all? Especially after we thought the whole team got sidelined.
Yeah.
Well, that was probably the worst thing Baylor could have done at that point because the crowd was completely out of it, and they were still in the game at that point.
Yep.
But it was was it a first down play, I think, at that point, or a second down play, a 2nd and 8, and sweep to the sideline. I forgot who it was. Held them up, and then hard hit just close to being out of bounds. But if you go back and watch the tape, it wasn't a late hit out of bounds. And then just the Baylor cheap shot that just started the whole thing, and. And then you have number 33 on Baylor, curb stomping poor Nick Orr, who's laying on the ground. And then Nick Orr gets up and tries to defend himself. And unfortunately, according to reports today, the league hand down a first half suspension to Orr for the championship. Of course.
And then Baylor gets to sit for 3 players from Baylor get the first half suspensions against Incarnate Word and what other putts they.
No. Kansas. They get to see their first conference game next year against Kansas. They can still play in the out of conference games, but they can't play the first half against Kansas.
Way to dish out that punishment.
I mean, that's crazy to me, because if you go back and look at it, the Baylor guy clearly started the whole thing. Because if they wanted to call a penalty on a late hit, they would have called that. There was no question about that. The question was who hit first, and clearly we got hit first, and they started the whole thing.
I hope that Gary's is appealing that. I mean, I'd be disappointed if he didn't, but
I bet he has.
I'm sure. Yeah, I hope so. And that's absolutely ridiculous punishment. I mean, they start the fight. One of ours gets a 1/2 suspension. Two of ours gets a 1/2 next season. No, that's not equitable. That's not fair. But
I want to know what would have happened if the Baylor players who got punished were seniors and they didn't have any more games after that. What would they have done at that point?
Well, are they? I mean, I don't know who they are.
No, as far as I know, I don't believe they are. I think I think if we're being accurate, two of the Baylor players, I think the guy who started it, one of the other guys that came off their bench and was kind of pushing people around, and then they both got first half suspensions. But the number 33 who was wailing on not wailing, but kicking and punching Nick Orr while he was on the ground, I think he got a full game suspension against Kansas.
Yeah.
Again, against Kansas.
Well, good.
But,
in one regard, I'm glad the commissioner was there to witness all that, because he was able to, get to it and review it pretty quickly. But in another part of that is I'm glad he was there to see his stinking referees and how they operate in some of the, I mean.
Bowlesby wasn't the only one there. The head of the referees for the Big 12 was also on hand for that.
Well, I think the smart thing they did was assess an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty to both benches. I think that was smart. I think it was really good. Could have put them all everybody on notice. One more and you're out, pal. So,
well, has anybody seen that happen before? I've never heard of that happening.
No.
And I'll be honest with you. One thing we didn't talk about that happened in the first half was Kevontae Turpin getting injured. And he was on the sideline in a boot. I don't think it's fair for Kevontae Turpin to get an unsportsmanlike contact. He wasn't out on the field. He was sitting on the bench.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Well,
you know what I don't understand? And this will be my little rant, and then I'll give it up. But, when you're out on the field, there's a lot of emotions going, and I get it. Last week we talked about Baker Mayfield, his, I don't know how you say this on a podcast. I guess just his crotch grab on the sideline and some of the other things he did.
Well,
I don't think it's good. I think it was good that he had to sit out a couple plays. I think he probably deserved a little bit more. But again, he had just had somebody try to target him, and his emotions are going. I get that. But all this stuff that, for example, Baker Mayfield has done off the field and not had any repercussions. And then these guys are just in the moment playing football, and they get a little out of control, and it's very minor, and they have to sit out a half a game. I don't get the way they measure off-field activity versus on-field during the game activity.
Well, none of those guys were arrested like Baker Mayfield was, and none of them ran from the police like Baker Mayfield did. None of them were, drunk and disorderly like Baker Mayfield, and zero happened to him.
Yeah, but they allow. That's all done by your school.
Yeah,
they allow, and that's the bad thing about it. Well, they just teach you the difference between the schools.
Well, also, none of those players, Wes, were Heisman hopefuls.
Yeah, but
played starting quarterback for OU. So
you got a situation where Bob Stoops was no longer the head coach. Now you've got Lincoln Riley. Here was a perfect time for him to set an example and say, no matter who you are, you're not going to go screwing around like that. And he dropped the ball. And I think he sent a bad message that nothing's going to happen to you.
Are you talking about back during the Little Rock incident, or are you talking about?
Yeah, the Little Rock incident.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about this last week. I was like,
no, that was under Lincoln Riley's watch. And this thing too. Right. I mean, just come on. You sit out 2 plays for your horrible behavior against when they played us. I mean,
it's Wes. It's 1 play for each inch.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Oh God. Y'all.
Nice one.
But the other part that blew my mind is that they allow the other players, the captains, to walk out with his jersey as if he had been mistreated or misjudged, unfairly. I was like, are you kidding me?
I'm just waiting for the OU sideline to take a knee in reverence of Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
God. guys.
And I guess nothing's ever going to come of when we were playing them and we had to come out of our locker room and we did have to kind of cut through their drill, but it was the only route the players could take. And they really were in basically a single file line, and he threw the ball. Did y'all watch that?
Yeah, he did it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That was just mean. I mean, that was mean.
Well, yeah, Nick Orr suffered the official line is an upper body injury.
No, that was Nico's fault.
He suffered a concussion at the hands of Baker Mayfield by throwing that ball while
nothing happened
running pregame, and not a thing happened. And if you go back and review the tape, it's quite clear Baker Mayfield, the man everybody says has impeccable accuracy, was throwing a good 3 to 4 yards to the left of his receiver, 10 yards away, specifically targeting Nico Small in the head.
Sure.
So if the commissioner wants to review the tape and hand out punishments, by all means, review the tape and hand out punishment, but call it both ways, or at least handle it consistently. This is not.
I'm not a big fan of I like our commissioner about as much as I like our referees, so don't look for anything to happen.
Yeah, and we all know how you feel about the referees there, Wes. By the way, did you like all those reviews on Friday?
Yeah, I love reviews. My favorite part of football.
You forget why you're at the game. You forget what quarter you're
in. I come to watch the referees because I was talking to Sean or somebody behind us, and they started off the game with 2 penalties in a review, and I said, they found these guys in a homeless shelter. Hey, come on in. Get to throw yellow flags. We'll let you keep the shirt and give you $10. Come on in here and work a game.
Well, you have to say how the mood was in the press box. By the time we got to the second half and they were botching calls, like, they're going to review when they say it was like a forward pass, but it was a run play. By the time they were just bumbling through even the open mic calls, the press box was just getting sick and tired of it. You're hearing moans and groans and people throwing pencils and stuff, just like, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, well, they're right.
Well, that's what the crazy thing was, is how many times that the referee just got up and said totally the wrong thing. I mean, just totally, he would say, I mean, did you look and go, well, that's not right.
Right.
And all of a sudden somebody had to come tell him or something, or but over and over again, I just can't think he looked real good to the commissioner. I mean, the head referee of the Big 12. If he was there, maybe he saw some good old stuff we've been seeing all year.
I'm telling you, that's what they get for finding the referees in a homeless shelter. And I told it to Sean, and I swear some lady behind me said, he shouldn't be making fun of the homeless like that. Yeah, but
I didn't hear that. Did somebody say that? Wes, you froze. Did somebody say that? I didn't hear that at the game.
I think after the second or third time I said that, Sean, there's a lady sitting behind us. And I swear I heard her say that. Now, I mean, my hearing aids may have been acting up, but I swear she said that.
You got better hearing than I do. I mean, you're like the $6 million man with those hearing aids. I
haven't cranked up all the way, too.
Yeah. I got hearing damage for years in jazz band, so it's just not going to happen for me. But yeah, so what comes out of this fight, Nick Orr unfortunately is going to be missing the first half of the Big 12 championship game. And like we said, the Baylor guys get the massive punishment of having to sit out a half or a game against Kansas. Which I don't know. Maybe Kansas will finally have a chance to beat Baylor next year. That'll be interesting.
There you go.
Yeah. So that was interesting. But there's one guy that we definitely want to single out in this game, and for that we're going to have an entire segment just for him, and that will be play of the game. We're going to amend this to player of the game, and that's going to be sponsored by ML Leddy's in the Fort Worth Stockyards. If you're looking for a good pair of boots or any sort of Western wear, go ahead and go out to ML Leddy's. They're down in the Stockyards off of Main Street, or go online to leddys.com. That's LEDDYS.com, and check them out. But Wes, do you want to ask for boots?
Oh, I would just wonder where I could get a good pair of boots.
Yeah, and Ryan, by the way, like I said before, those
Santa.
We got to get a picture. You got to send me another close-up picture of those, and I'll put them in the show notes for this. So
sure, I sure will.
What you got? They got the flying T on them. They got KillerFrogs.
Awesome boots.
And the leather is just so supple. It's just absolutely.
It's wonderful.
It's great. All right, so player of the game. We all talked about this ahead of time. We all agree. Usually at this time we do play of the game. We go over all the different plays and we pick which one we all thought was the play of the game. But there was really only one guy who stood out above the rest. And as much as Kenny Hill had a great game, you have to give it to Matt Boesen. Boesen was on fire, got a national honor out of that particular thing. 5.5 sacks. I don't know. Dubber, take us through this. What did you see out of Boesen in this game?
Hey, that's just, well, first of all, I mean, he did what some guys do in a season in one game. I mean, he was just unbelievable. I mean, he had his motor running. I know his parents were in town. I know he had a lot of family. I don't know what it was, but boy, he just dominated. And, you know, some of it does because we have another good defense man on the other side that they kept the running back over there, so they just continued to put Boesen one-on-one. And we found out that both of the offensive tackles that they played against him, he just went ahead. That's just good old-fashioned whipping right there. I mean, that's the only way you can look at it. He was quick. He was dominant. When he decided to bull rush, he bull rushed sometimes, and because they were so scared because he's quick. I mean, he was just all over the field. He also had probably about 10 tackles. I don't know what his total stats were, but I mean, he was all over the field. I mean, it wasn't just the sacks.
It almost looked to me like he was on a one-man mission, just to get us back into the championship game to get another shot at Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you, it worked. And I think he wants Baker Mayfield.
Oh, I think he does too, because you know what happened with him, you know, in that Oklahoma game. So I think he was excited. But man, I mean, it's been. I was telling y'all, you know, that I don't know if Spradlin was tied with somebody, but Spradlin was the guy I played with, and he had at least part of the record until this last weekend. And so, I mean, that's a long time for somebody with all the good defensive ends and stuff. You okay, Wes?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Put a wild animal into his house.
I know. So it sounded like. But, you know, that record stood for a long time. And he was just something else. You don't get to see that very often.
No, that was impressive. That was fun to watch because they had no answer for him.
None.
They couldn't stop him.
It was crazy. I just kept thinking, boy, they're going to do something. And they did. They let him keep coming.
Yeah.
But he was all over the field. It was just an unbelievable day. I mean, to be able to do 5.5 sacks, I mean, that only happens one. Well, like I said, is 1987 is who one of the people, I think there's two tied at 5 sacks, and one of them's all the way back in 87. So I'll tell you how long ago, you know, that the record stood up, you know. So
that's one of those once in a lifetime things you get to see, kind of like LT's 406 yards against UTEP.
Yep.
I mean, that's just one of those achievements on the defensive side. You know, we got to see a little bit of history there. That was incredible.
Yep. It'll be a long time. I predict it'll be a long time for that record's broken.
Absolutely.
It'll be another 10, 15
next weekend.
That's what I'm saying. I hope it's this weekend.
I hope we do. I hope he does. But if he does, let me tell you, if he does, or one of them do next weekend, I'll tell you, I feel really good about it.
Yeah.
I'll tell y'all a little funny story. So we're sitting there, and if y'all are guys, so you probably don't notice these things, but this is for all the girls that are listening to the podcast. So he usually has his hair, at least the last few games that I've noticed, his hair in cornrows. And this game, his hair was just free flowing. And so I didn't even know. I was like, who's that guy with the long blonde hair? Because I just had never noticed it before. And then I realized, oh my gosh, that's Boesen. And so the lady sitting next to me, I'm going to say her name, Diane Hill, if you're listening, it's hilarious. So anyway, she's like, oh no, she was the one that telling me he usually has his hair in cornrows. And I mean, to tell you, I was like, God, he's like, we need to call him Sebastian, I think. I don't think he needs to be Boesen anymore. We've got to come up with a new name because he looks like he's on it from an 80s commercial with like Farrah Fawcett or somebody like that for like a Vidal Sassoon shampoo commercial. So the whole game, we're joking about him being Sebastian. And then I kid you not, the people behind us who I don't think they could hear anything we were saying. the lady behind us started saying the same thing, except she called him Fabio.
Fabio.
So from here on out, I have a little nickname phrase for our kicker song, and now from here on out, Bosun's going to be Sebastian. So don't get confused by my nickname for him.
Okay. Dude, I get confused for being Fabio all the time. It's amazing.
I bet you do.
Yeah, you both have the same body type, Wes. So
yeah. In fact, that was his body double a couple times, but that's another story.
Yeah, you guys keep bringing up hair in these podcasts. I swear.
I know.
And go on. So
nice to have a full head of it.
I'll have to take your word for it when it comes to product and whatnot.
Sean, I don't want to steal any of Bosun's thunder, but you did mention Kenny, and I will butcher the big running back's name. What's his name? Go ahead.
Shewo.
Thank you.
Shewo Olanolu.
Okay. Oh, I always say the last name, and Hunter just laughs at me. I'm up there. I was up there chatting, and he's going like, "Dad, would you be quiet? You're not getting it right." I said, "Well, I'm close, son." He's got it. If he heard me, he knows I was talking to him. But I did want to mention both them briefly on the offense, just because we didn't say anything hardly. He had a great game. I mean, he finally got to run some, and I thought he ran very hard and stuff. And I tell you, the one thing I want to say about Kenny is I guess it would go with Cumbie too. Wasn't it nice to see us throw over the middle of the field?
Oh, yes.
Unbelievable. Well, I mean, when we started throwing the middle of the field, it was unbelievable how many people we had open. Now, Kenny got a little crazy a couple times at the end. He threw into some double coverage there, but we had a lot of big plays through the middle of the field. I've been waiting to see
even
that
on those
for
passes he was getting a little crazy on, they were pretty darn close to being completed.
Yeah.
I mean, he was trying to thread that needle, and more power to him. Usually in those cases, you're like, don't do it. But he I don't know what was up. He had rhythm going, and he was just on fire.
Well, I was glad. I think that, that, like I told you, I mean, you're taking a big part of the field if you're only throwing down the sidelines or little bubble screens. You gotta attack them in the middle of the field too. And we went back to doing that. And I think it really hurt Baylor.
Yep.
Yeah.
But so I wanted to mention that. Then the big running back, he ran hard. He ran good. I mean, he was hard to get off his feet. He doesn't have all the super quick moves, but he's a power back, and he'll run through you.
Yeah, he did too.
The big difference between Hicks and Shewo's running style is that when Shewo doesn't try to dance around and go east or west, and he just tries to hit the hole or what's there, when he hits it, even though he gets stopped, he's usually with forward momentum, he's moving forward. So he's getting positive yards, even if he's getting tackled. Usually a lot of times when Hicks gets stood up, he ain't going anywhere. Yeah. He's stopped right then and there. So it was helpful, even though he may have gotten hit at the line of scrimmage. He still was picking up 2 or 3 yard chunks, even though he was getting stopped. And then that allowed him to kind of break it open. Also, Dubber, we didn't talk about Morris. Morris was playing a bit more in this game. He's about 20% of the snaps. Did you get a chance to look at anything what he did while he was in the game?
A little bit, I mean, I was frustrated with the line in general the first half. I got to tell you, I mean, but as the game went on, I mean, it got better. I mean, he got better at it. I mean, I'd like to see him in there for more than 20% of the snaps, just because I just think we're I don't no knock on anybody else. I just think we're a better offensive line.
I've been sitting around for past 5 weeks, and our offensive line has struggled at times during that period. I mean, may have told this to Sean. I said, one guy can't make that much difference. But I tell you, when he was in there, he made a difference. And we blocked better. We ran better when he was in there. And so I'm pouring ketchup all over my words and eating them, because he's definitely a difference maker when he's in the game.
Well, you got to, like I said, the offensive line is a little different in the sense that individually you got to do a good job, but then your 5 have to play well together as one also. Yeah. So it's a dual-edged sword. And if you get somebody there that's smart, knows what he's doing, and they got a feel for each other and stuff like that, I mean, it does. It makes a difference. It makes a big difference. So yeah, I just wish he could play a little more. Maybe next week we'll get there and he'll just be playing.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that'd be good. It looks like they're trying to gradually bring him back in so he can get kind of back in the game shape because he has been out since the Oklahoma State game. So yeah, hopefully for the championship game, he's playing at least the majority of the snaps.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, they got better in the second half, and but I was that was the two things I took out of the offense: was the big man running, and then us exploiting the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was huge. That was huge. It's nice to see that happen too, because I was wondering when Cumbie was going to finally realize there is a whole part of the field you're not even attacking, and go back to that again. So I don't know what was changed there, or why the change was made. Maybe it was just a read issue, or what. Maybe it's just because we're playing Baylor. But whatever it was, it worked out well, and it worked in Kenny's favor because he was on fire. What was it? Was 26 of 36.
Yeah,
300 plus yards.
But most importantly, we let OU know that we know there's a middle of the field out there. So, they can't just defend us on the side, on the edges like they had before.
And I tell you what, it came back around this week too. I don't how many different receivers had to catch 11. The ball this week.
11.
I mean, 11. It had to be a bunch. I mean, because there's a couple that I was like, man, I haven't seen him in a while, or he ain't caught one in 2 games or 3 games. I mean.
Well, talking about people you haven't seen in a while, you may not have noticed it, but Porter and Taj Williams were in several plays.
Yes.
They weren't targeted, but they were both on the field.
Yeah.
Usually split out wide. And that was great because that puts 2 giant threats on the field that you've got to account for. You can't just say, oh, he's not going to throw these guys. Because if he does, they're likely going to come up with a catch. So I don't know where they've been all season long, but I'd like to see them get involved a little bit more against OU.
Well, the thing about it is, if he throws to 11 different receivers, it just kind of shows you that he's not afraid to mix it up. I mean, I'm sure he has his favorite receiver, but it's not so much that he's going to throw to him 50% of the time, because if you hit 11 different receivers, you're really spreading the ball around.
Well, early in the season, he was spreading the ball around quite a bit. And then as we got into conference play, he had his favorite 5 or 6 that he would go to. But gosh, against Baylor, I mean, he was back to spreading that ball around and getting a number of receivers. And surely he saw he's far more effective when he does that. And we're a better offensive team when he does.
Well, maybe having that week off helped. Maybe he spent a lot more time studying film, or maybe Cumbie had more time to work with him. Or I don't know what it was, but you're right. I mean, it was not necessarily night and day difference, but it was kind of like Kenny that we saw in the beginning of the season that we're all really, really excited about and hopeful for.
Speaking of Kenny, did you read that? And I thought this was pretty darn neat. He came up to Patterson after the game and said, "Thank you for letting me come here, and I love you." I mean, Dubber, I know you played. How many coaches you ever say "I love you" to?
Probably not many. I mean,
oh my God.
I mean, it's good to see that Kenny appreciated that he understood what kind of opportunity that Patterson gave him. And you know what? Even if you sometimes, like you said, if you didn't even if you understood it, sometimes you never recognize a coach. Hey, I get along with all my coaches pretty well, but even when I left, I was getting along with them. But it took me a few years after I got out to really recognize what a couple of them did for me, or what I considered. And so for him to recognize that is really nice. I mean, it's really good to see that he understands that, Patterson took a leap of faith for him. And he's as far as the way he's acted, the way he's done this and that and everything, he's done it all the right way.
He's done everything. I know when they came here, they said, and I heard Chris Delconte say this to a group of guys, there's a certain protocol they laid out for him to come here, and he had to do it, and he did it. He did it to the best of his ability, and that's before he even stepped foot on the field. So he did everything they asked him to do, and then some. And then on the field, I know he's gotten beaten up a little bit by the fans, but you know what? We're 10-2 under Kenny Hill's leadership here. So I mean, he's done something right. I'm going to miss him.
Yeah, he may have started out as an Aggie, but he'll forever be a Frog.
That's right.
Yeah. Yep.
That made Ryan happy. You see that big old smile?
Yeah, because it's hard for me to live down the Aggie deal too. I got to tell you.
Yeah.
Woo! No. Bad taste. But you're right. I mean, he really has. He's come. He's done all the right things. And, hey, whether you like him as a quarterback or not, as far as a person and a human being, he's been A1 for TCU ever since he stepped on campus. And
yes, he has.
So, that's not even a question there, So, anyway, I'm glad to see him. Hey, if he's having success, that means that TCU's having success.
That's right. We're going to miss him.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We are. But let's move away from the Baylor hate week now that that's behind us, and let's talk a little bit about the games here in the Big 12. Really wish last week's podcast would have captured our predictions, because a couple of us got some big predictions right. Yeah. Well, let's start off with the other game on Friday, and this one was crazy.
Yes, it was.
Texas Tech coming back and beating Texas in Austin, and I think Dubber, was it me and you who both said Texas Tech would win this game?
I did.
No, Ryan. Ryan said
it was Ryan. It was
Ryan.
And you. It was both of y'all. I didn't give Tech a chance. I really didn't. I thought that, stick a fork in them. I thought they were done. And danged if they didn't step up and, hey, I watched. Hey, it was a great game at the end. I mean, watch them. I don't know if y'all watched it. I don't even like Tech either.
No, I couldn't watch it. What we were doing, I drove down with my family Wednesday to San Antonio for Thanksgiving. And then Friday morning, I woke up at 4 a.m., picked up Wes in Georgetown for the game. And then we drove back after the game. So as I'm driving back into San Antonio, I was listening to the game on the UT feed on Sirius XM. And I tell you what, by halftime, the guys who were announcing the game for UT were pretty much like, it's all over. This is great. And Texas going the right way. And they've got this in the bag. And I was like, it sounds like that, but I hope you're wrong. And so I by the time I rolled in, it was the start of the fourth quarter. I was beat, and I went inside, laid down, woke up the next morning and went, how the heck did they come back from this game?
Yeah. Well, Hunter did the same thing. With that early game and just being excited about it being the last game, by the time I got home, I felt like it was about midnight. It was only like 7, or 6, I guess, actually. And so anyway, everybody went to bed on me, and I was sitting in there, and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to watch a little bit, just see what happens. And all of a sudden, well, they changed quarterbacks first of all. He started.
Well, at the start of the game, they started the other quarterback, right? Not
Michelle.
Yeah, and then they brought him. They brought him in the fourth quarter, and instantly he made a difference. I mean, it was his first pass was our second pass was a 55-yard completion, and after that, you could just kind of see it happening. I mean, they said 10 points was the biggest deficit that Kingsbury's come back from in the fourth quarter if he's been by. And so, you know what it did? Saved his job. We're not talking about the Tech job.
Yeah, I kind of thought Kingsbury would be on the unemployment line.
I did too. too.
And we'll talk about the coaching carousel because I was surprised. I thought he had a ticket already booked. It did. Well, not only that, but it also made Tech bowl eligible. So now Big 12, we got 8 of 10 teams that are bowl eligible. That's fantastic.
And it's just I know I say Texas needs to be relevant, but if they decide not to be relevant, it's always nice to see that something like that happens. And that, and I don't have anything against Texas, but let me tell you, like you said, if you watch that game, you kind of listen to everybody. Yeah. They'd already written Tech off. I mean,
arrogance is just wearing thin at this point.
Yes, and so hey, but I'm glad, like you said, it's a 50-50 deal. Without Texas being great this year, it's probably just as good Tech won, and we got another team in the bowl.
Right. Yeah, and the icing on top is they ruined Texas's senior night. So.
I hate it when that happens.
I know.
And the freshman threw another big interception at the end of the game.
Yep.
Oh man, he
just went stupid, and There was a game earlier in the season where he just completely threw it to the defensive player. I mean, it's like thought he was throwing it to one of his own guys. And
that was the Oklahoma State game, wasn't it?
Yeah. And he did it twice, Friday night. So,
that was a bad pass, that last one especially. But you gotta give Tech. Hey, Tech fought for their lives, and they could have quit at any time, and they didn't. And then when they switched quarterbacks again, it was like that just breathed the whole whole new life in them. You know,
Well, I tell you, the one thing that really surprised me about this, out of all the stat lines, was that they actually made 2 field goals.
Oh yeah, hey, and he did good. I mean, now, yeah,
He must feel he has a little bit of redemption now, so that was good. Made up for that horrible shank against us.
Kingsbury gets another year, and we got another Big 12 team in the bowl games.
It's a Thanksgiving miracle.
Exactly.
All right, moving on to the Saturday game. None of us really gave West Virginia a chance in this game, but they did make it interesting. But end up Oklahoma wins 59-31 on the really because of a really big second quarter where Oklahoma scored 31 points and went into half up. What was it, 45-10?
Yeah.
I mean, by that it was like I don't even think they're going to come back. But West Virginia did fight back a little bit in the third quarter, but that second quarter was just impossible to kind of overcome. I didn't watch any of this game. Did you guys get a chance to watch any of this?
I didn't get to see any of it.
No, I didn't either. I just saw
Alabama was on at the same time, didn't it? Alabama.
What? Oh, the Alabama. Yeah, the Alabama game was far more interesting to watch.
That's the one I was watching.
Yeah, that was the highlight. I mean, that was a highlight game. I mean, I just watched the highlights of the game. That's about all I got of it too.
Yeah, I was so into that game, I decided to go watch Justice League with my family. So that was
well, that's good. Good movie.
Yeah, well, it was okay. It was not bad. I'll give it a solid B.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge DC guy. I'm kind of more Marvel than DC, but I mean, you know, now that we're done with that geek interlude, there, we'll move on to Kansas and Oklahoma State. No, really, it was a decent movie. It was good. Yeah, there you go. Kansas and Oklahoma State. None of us gave Kansas a shot, and they proved us right. Oklahoma State rolls over them 58-17. I don't think there was anything of note to talk about in this particular game. At least I didn't see any.
They scored 17 points.
Well, they did score 17, but
and
was
Kansas announced that their coach Beatty will be back next year. So
a Thanksgiving miracle.
Somehow he saved his job.
I don't know how you can, but I guess, you know, both 1 and 11 Big 12 teams will keep their head coach next year.
Yeah.
I don't know what that says about their programs, but hopefully we'll get another race to the bottom again.
Nobody else wants to go there and coach, so they're probably
probably. Well, I tell you what, between the two coaches, I think they both probably deserve one more year just for different circumstances, but. Yeah, it's just interesting that both of them ended up with 1-11, and they're keeping their head coaches. So
they're you know, one's in his second year and one is in his first year. They're not going to jump ship on them yet.
No,
either one.
No, but I think out of the two programs, I think Baylor's got a much tougher road ahead than the Kansas does.
Well, I think this is Beatty's third year at Kansas.
Oh, third year.
Is it his third year?
Yeah,
I thought it was second still. All right, no. And that brings us to the final game of the week, and that would be Iowa State against Kansas State. And this was an interesting one, kind of right down towards the end of the fourth quarter. Kansas State ends up winning 20-19, and puts Iowa State out of everybody's playoff championship crazy formulas. And this was an interesting game. Did you guys get a chance to watch any of this one?
Nope, I sure didn't.
I didn't either.
Now, this was kind of like your typical kind of Bill Snyder style game, just kind of like grind it out a little bit. But it was kind of ugly back and forth. Iowa State never really felt like they got a lot of momentum going. They got a couple things going, but then they all really stalled out. They kicked several field goals in this game. But I mean, overall, it was just kind of like the Bill Snyder kind of wore them down, or Iowa State just kind of ran out of gas at the end of the season. I don't know which was which, but this did not look like the Iowa State team that played against Oklahoma or TCU.
Well, I mean, they were sky high to play Oklahoma and sky high to play us. You know, you're seeing K-State, who's, I guess they're bowl eligible now, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, probably not quite as emotional charge for them to play K-State, but, you know, it sounded like just a typical Bill Snyder game. I mean, you're not going to out-coach him. So you just have to outplay him. And they didn't do it.
And you know, the style of offense and defense they play is just pretty much different than anybody else in the conference. I mean, that offense is totally – I mean, to me, K-State's got an offense that just – you got most of the Big 12
it's more like a Big Ten. style offense.
you got all the Big 12 offenses, then you got K-State. And
Yeah.
so for that 1 week, you're just playing a different style of game. And their style of game is to keep the score down if they can and keep it close. And at the end, if it's close, you're probably in trouble because Coach Snyder knows how to, get them kids to win a game at the end, or he leashes in it, at the end all the time. Like I said, great coach. And, I think this is another one that I picked the other way. I thought Iowa State would go ahead and take care of it. And, but just shows you Kansas State is capable of doing that every game, every year. They're going to sneak up. They're going to beat 3 or 4 teams that you think, or 2 or 3 teams that you think, well, they should probably – I just didn't think they're as good as them. But that's just the way they are.
Yeah. Well, I picked K-State to win that game because I thought in the back of my mind that may be Coach Snyder's last game. But I may be fooled on that. They certainly won it. But, so far there's no sign from Snyder that he's ready to hang it up. So,
yeah. Well, I wasn't very good on my picks. I just picked the right one.
There you go.
Well put.
I put too much thought into mine.
Yeah, hey, there was 2 of them out there that I thought would go the other way that didn't, but it probably helped bowl-wise and everything else. So how many teams did we get this year eligible? Everybody except for the bottom 2?
Yep,
Yeah.
everyone except for Kansas and Baylor.
Okay, that's pretty salty.
Everyone who won more than 1 game is bowling.
Well, that's true. Yep. No, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I think it was fantastic.
Yep.
It's nice to have that from a conference perspective. It's good to have the vast majority of your teams.
Sure, those are SEC type numbers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a good stat line. And if the college football invitational really took into consideration those kind of things, other than like body clock and key injuries and who has the best loss, then that may mean something to whoever wins the championship game. But since they don't, and they make up their criteria as they go along, it won't matter one whit. Yep. So we'll see how that goes. But that does bring up what we're going to go into next, and that is the coaching carousel. So all the games are done this weekend, and there have been a lot of vacancies announced and some hires already announced. And Wes, why don't you take us through this a little bit?
Oh, it's been crazy. This time of the year, I love reading footballscoop.com because they do a really good job of staying up to date. But here, look close to home, as we all may have heard by now, Kevin Sumlin's out of Texas A&M. Interesting part for that is his buyout. They owe him $10.4 million that they have to pay out in 60 days. So, and there's no
60 days?
60 days. And there's no restriction. A lot of these buyouts are structured such that if you take a job, then your buyout's then prorated and they don't owe you quite as much. On this one, there's no proration. So he can take a job tomorrow and get his $10.4 million and whatever else the other school is going to pay him. And he'll make out like a bandit.
Jeez.
And, it's just incredible. The situation in Tennessee has been pretty fluid. The reports were that Ohio State defensive coordinator Greg Schiano was in the final stages of negotiation for that job, and apparently they had tendered an offer to him, and somebody broke the news that he was going to be hired, and the fan reaction was just so volatile and so overwhelming that now they've withdrawn the offer apparently. And Schiano, his agent, said, well, heck, I don't want to go there where nobody wants me. Mm-hmm. So, and Tennessee apparently has withdrawn the offer. So
that's a bad look.
Oh, it's bad. But, I also read this morning that they're really working hard on John Gruden. And the numbers that I read were they're floating a salary of $11 million a year as coaching or his salary, and plus an $8 million pool of cash to get your assistants. Well, that's an astounding amount of money to buy assistant coaches. But I mean, this whole thing has just gotten out of sight as far as.
Didn't Gruden at one point in time in Twitter this week say there's absolutely no way I'm going to Tennessee to coach football?
Well, yeah, but apparently I read this morning that they've been persistent and they're trying to go to him, and when you start throwing $11 million out there, I don't care who you are, you're going to listen to them. I sure would. So, I mean, he would be the highest paid coach in college football. Nick Saban, who's won how many? 4 national championships, doesn't make that kind of money. I mean, and if they guarantee it with a low buyout or something, then, I mean, my God, why would you take it? But this is a guy who hadn't coached in 6 or 7 years. And I don't think he was all that successful at the pro level. He did go to 1 Super Bowl, but beyond that, I can't listen to his accomplishments as a head coach. So, it's gotten crazy. Now, Dan Mullen, apparently, who came to Mississippi State from Florida, apparently is agreed in principle to be their next head coach. So Mississippi State's going to be looking for somebody. Ole Miss, of course, is in the market. Arkansas, Brett Bielema got fired. So, God knows who they're going to find.
Is that Chip Kelly UCLA deal a done deal?
Chip Kelly, apparently he had his choice between Florida and
UCLA.
UCLA, and he took UCLA, which is interesting because there was somebody who wrote this article threw in one aspect I haven't even considered. There was one school he was considering, and they were an Under Armour school, and his good buddy is the CEO of Nike. Nike and Under Armour are bitter rivals. So they figured, well, he didn't want to make his friend mad, so he would take a lesser chance of going to an Adidas school like UCLA, over the Under Armour school. And I can't recall who that was.
Well, I gotta say the big news there is Nike considers Under Armour a bigger competitor than Adidas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Phil Knight's the guy. Phil Knight, the CEO at Nike. And then, of course, the guy at the Arizona State got fired today. And the rumor is now that Kevin Sumlin may be a candidate for that job. So a lot of turnover, a lot of interesting movement in the coaching ranks, and the salaries they're mentioning are just outrageous. So I guess rather than chocolate, I probably should have gone into coaching at some point in my life.
When they're throwing around numbers like $11 million and $10 million buyouts and things like that, that's
my God.
That's an insane amount of money.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Absolutely insane amount of money.
It is insane.
Yeah. Well, and the Aggies earlier on in the week, we had somebody on the board post a rumor that it was kind of like I was making fun of it, but he was like, "Oh, this guy at work whose dad is a big donor said that Coach Patterson is a done deal. He's going to be the head coach at A&M after the season." And it was kind of one of those rumors, kind of like in if you guys remember the movie Ferris Bueller's.
Mm-hmm.
Where that scene with I guess the girl's name was Simone or whatever, and oh yeah, didn't you hear? I heard from my brother's sister's boyfriend who's going out with a guy at whatever, saw Ferris throw up a Baskin Robbins. It was kind of like those convoluted rumors, and everyone was freaking out for a short period of time. And then what happens after the game? We announced Patterson's got a 2-year extension.
Yeah, I don't see Patterson. I mean, I really think once Patterson, and I'm hoping he does, but I think the scenario I would see if he wins national championship, he sees that as his time to hang it up and enjoy life for a while. And I hope he gets there. That's
we all do.
But it's crazy. I mean, of course, now I guess the big rumor is that Jimbo Fisher has been working on. He's willing to listen or has listened to A&M and is willing to come there. And that'd be a pretty good pickup for him. He's won a national championship.
Yeah,
but
that'd be a good hire for A&M. That really would be.
It would be.
Why would you?
But not that someone's been a terrible coach.
I know, but why would you want to go from Florida State to A&M?
Money.
Well, okay, I guess.
Yeah, but, I mean, Dubber. I think they're paying. I think Aggies. They're going to pay him $10 million in 60 days. So money's not an object.
Money's not an object. I know that, but I guess Florida State, I mean, I don't know. It seems like they'd have money too, but I guess they don't have it like the Aggies have it.
Well, now one thing I've read.
It's a lot of money in cheap.
People at Florida State said, we want to keep you. We'll pay you what you want. But you know what? I got to think maybe he's just looking for a different opportunity. I think he wants to coach in the SEC rather than the ACC. So,
but that could be a big thing too, because the ACC is struggling a bit.
Yep.
And maybe there's something there. Maybe this is the rats abandoning the Titanic a bit. One of those kind of moments when you start seeing coaches, not necessarily teams moving from a conference, but when you're seeing coaches from big programs moving to other conferences. Maybe that there's something else going on there that we don't know about.
Yeah, and he'd spent some time at LSU, and in fact, I think he listened to LSU, and they were trying to hire him a while back. And I think he's an SEC guy at heart.
Well, then maybe that's what because my deal is the thing about Florida State, if they're undefeated at the end of the year and one loss, they're going to be one of the teams that have a really good chance of getting in the national championship on reputation.
Absolutely.
So my deal is it's not like that he's going somewhere that he's going to have a better chance to get in the national championship picture, especially with what Division A&M's in. But to me, it's almost easier he could get there and staying right where he's at, owning Florida State. Then who knows? Maybe he wants a new challenge.
Yeah,
it could be. Could be.
All right. Any other major coaching news there was?
Not that I know of. Ole Miss is still looking around. Of course, Arkansas is going to be looking. Scott Frost of Central Florida looks like he's in an enviable position because I think he's being a Nebraska grad. He's probably headed there, because they got rid of Mike Riley.
Right. They had to.
So, it's sad.
Uh-oh. He got sad.
Les froze mid-sentence.
Les got so sad he froze up on us.
He did. No, there he is.
Frozen yet?
Yeah,
You're unfrozen.
He's come back now. Oh, he went back again.
You gotta love live broadcasts. They're so full of there's fun. Well, whenever we get Wes back, we'll hear what was sad. But
yeah, exactly.
Let's go ahead and move on now that we're done with coaching, and let's talk a bit about this Big 12 championship game. First Big 12 championship game in since 2011?
Yeah, right? Who was in it? It was OU and
6 years.
Who was in it? OU and Texas? I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
I'll get right.
The only thing I remember was Dr. Pepper used to sponsor it. That was the only thing I remember about the Big 12 championship game. But yeah, first Big 12 championship game, we'll say in 6 years, and a game that neither Tech nor Baylor have actually ever played in. And it's going to be TCU versus Oklahoma, the rematch, and winner takes all, sort of. Winner will definitely win the Big 12 and await the fate of the College Football Invitational Committee. Figure out exactly what we're going to be doing and who makes the top four. I think it's a fait accompli at this point. I think Wes is back. I think it's a fait accompli at this point. If OU does beat TCU, they're probably going to make the playoffs. But if we beat OU, there's still an outside chance. I think there's going to be a lot of help. And again, like I said earlier, the criteria is so fluid. Who knows? But in any event, if we do beat OU, that should guarantee us at least a New Year's Six Bowl. And that's nothing to feel bad about. That would be an awesome achievement for this team.
Okay,
Wes?
Right. I actually went to this game. Did any of y'all go? I went to it was actually 2010, and it was Nebraska against OU. So
the last time Nebraska was relevant?
Yeah, exactly. And I know you won. So, and I believe OU's been in the Big 12 conference the most out of any other school. I think Texas runs a close, not even a close second. So, So it's nice to be up there with them. Yeah,
definitely. But this will be an interesting game.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's going to be interesting because I'm a firm believer Patterson don't get beat twice. Very rarely the same way. I mean, very rarely does he get beat twice the same way. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the adjustments he makes to make sure the first half doesn't happen again. They can't get off to the start they did. We can't get off to the start we did. Because if we do, it's not going to be good. So,
I'm missing one threat we had in that first game, and that's Darius Anderson.
Yeah.
But then again, our offensive line wasn't doing well in that game anyway. So even with Anderson, we weren't able to really run the ball.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
If Morris is back playing the majority of the snaps, I feel a lot better with Shawo running it. and Hicks out of the backfield than I did when we faced them the first time in Norman with Anderson.
Yep.
I mean, granted, it'd be great if we had Anderson back. It'd be nice if we had our full complement of running backs, but I think both those guys, both Shaywo and Hicks, can handle the load.
Yep.
Well, will Anderson be back for the bowl game, or is he done?
No, he's done for the season.
Done. High ankle sprain like he had. That's 6, 7 week, 8 week deal.
Yeah, I mean, and there's no reason to rush him back.
No.
I mean, you don't want to cause any further injury to that area or cause an even bigger tear or something like that. So, we'll be fine. He'll have plenty of touches next season.
Yep.
So it's unfortunate.
I tell you, the one I'm worried about is Turpin. I mean, I don't.
Well, now Coach said he's okay.
Okay. Okay. Well,
okay.
I hope he's okay.
Yep. He was in a walking boot on the sideline, but they said that was just for precautionary purposes.
Yeah. But even if he's 75%, that's a heck of a lot better than a lot of the guys out there in the field. So
yeah,
I'm hoping he's good for the game.
What effect is it going to have on our team with Orr sitting out the first half?
That's a good question. I mean, we have other safeties on the team, obviously, who can step up, but Orr is one of the more physical players that we have back there, and he's especially really good coming up and defending against a run when needed. The only downside to Orr's play is that sometimes he gets caught looking in the backfield. Sometimes he gets caught over the top with his coverage. So I don't know. I don't know how that's going to. I mean, it's not good that he's out, but
if we get Nico Small back, that will help equalize things a little bit.
And I think
that's true.
I think probably more than anything, it's a leadership role he probably brought out there, the presence. But kind of like the defensive line, just because they've had to, because of maybe somebody having to sit out or injuries or this. He has rotated a lot of secondary guys in and out. So it's not. I don't feel terribly bad. I mean, it's not their first rodeo out there, but there's a certain amount of confidence that comes along with a guy like Nick Orr, and he's kind of put his time in. He's out there. I think he's a leader. I think people listen to him. So I think that's the biggest thing. Athletic ability wise, I think you got a handful of guys that can step in. Maybe they don't run. Maybe not quite as good on the run, but they're better on the pass and vice versa. So I don't feel real bad about it. I mean, I hope that I'm right that we can hold down the fort until he gets back to the second half.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be the key to this game because I'm like you said, Dubber. You give Gary Patterson an opportunity to game plan for anybody. We see this during the bowl games all the time. I mean, you give him a month to game plan for somebody, and he's deadly.
Yep.
You give him an opportunity to game plan for the exact same team twice in a season. I mean, we haven't seen that yet, but I can't imagine that that's going to spell good things for Oklahoma, especially given the fact that I don't think Oklahoma's going to change much, if anything, going into this game because I don't think Mayfield would be open to the idea of them coming up and going, we're going to completely change the offense to kind of confuse TCU. I think Mayfield's got an ego thinking, hey, we beat their heads in the first time doing the things that I do right. Why are we going to change anything up? I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah.
We're talking, Wes and I were talking up in the press box at halftime, and we made a comment to somebody up there, or I did, that if I were Baylor last week, that's exactly what I would have done as my game plan. I would have game planned a completely different offense for the second half than I did for the first half, just simply because of how good Patterson's been with second half adjustments this year. And, he made that second half adjustment in Norman and shut him down. And now I know a lot of people are like, they called off the dogs. If you look at all the other games, they don't call off dogs at Oklahoma. I mean, they go all the way to the very final whistle, and they'll try to score on you as many times as possible. So coming away from Norman with 0 points in the second half, that was the defense. And they're going to start off the game pretty much seeing the exact same offense they did in that second half. So if they can come out and fire on all cylinders instead of starting off slow like they did before, who knows? I mean, Oklahoma may be in for one heck of a long night.
Well, I look at it too. I just, man, I hope our offense has learned from their mistakes too. I mean, more, we got plenty of woulda, coulda, shouldas on the offense, and we should have plenty of what we know doesn't work. And of course, and I'll say this too about the first game. there was at least two third down penalties that gave them first downs that they scored on. One of them cost us our defensive end. For the first half of the next game. Well, that whole game, and then the rest of the game, and then the first half of the next game. And then, we kick an extra – we kick a field goal. A guy do a stupid jump, and then they pulled it off the board, and then we missed the field goal. And then we started with a 5-yard run, and it ended up being 1st and 20, because we had a hold call. I just keep looking at them, but those you just look at 2 or 3 or 4 penalties. You just take them away, and it could have been a very different game just off of that right there. Yeah. That's 17 points and 2 penalties, because it was third down when we shut them down. It was flat third down. They were fixing to punt, and they didn't have to punt. They ended up scoring on us. That's the one thing you can't do. You can't give them second chances. And I hope we learn that. I agree with you, Sean, especially the first half. We got very conservative at the end of the first half, when there was probably the biggest thing I was probably disappointed in the first game really was when we had the ball on that side of the 50. It was 4th and, 2 yards, 3 yards. We ended up punting. Mm-hmm. And then they turned right back around and they drove down and scored within a minute or so. It was – I think he thought that they were going to take their foot off the gas, and they never did. They made us look silly for it. They were like, hey, yeah, go ahead and punt on us. Give us a minute or so back on there, And at that point in time, I just thought, we're already down enough. We might as well try to salvage something, by the time at the end of the first half.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't give Oklahoma second chances. And one thing that I did see that was an improvement this week over the previous games was that we didn't have a lot of offensive penalties that gave us starting, 1st and 20, 2nd and 15, 3rd and 9, and just have these really, really long yardages that we had to make back. And that was a positive against Baylor, but you got to have a clean game against Oklahoma. If you're gonna be able to win this game, you can't give them second chances, and you can't put your offense in a hole because of penalties.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you another thing I don't want. I don't want that same refereeing crew.
Yeah. No, I don't either.
That same referee,
who in the Big 12 are you going to get to referee this game who isn't going to be just like, the Three Stooges?
Yeah, I know, but the first two, the 2 games we lost is both that crew. And not saying that, I'm not saying they had some bias against TCU, but sometimes maybe they referee it a little bit. That's what drives you crazy, is because every crew has a little bit different whatever of how they consider what a penalty is, or what they consider a personal foul is, or the way they see a game going, and then it ends up influencing the game quite often, And so I definitely just don't want to see that set of officials again. No,
hopefully not.
And I'm not crying. Oklahoma could have, we didn't play very good that game, all the way around. But
no, we didn't. But you want a good officiating crew that calls it both ways. If they're going to call it, if they're going to have weird, weird ways that they consider to be holding, or if they're going to call something that is a little ticky-tack, then call it ticky-tack and call it inconsistently both ways. Don't sit there and say, well, for this team, this is holding, and for that team, that's not holding. It's just stupid when you do that.
I don't know if I never saw anything over the Bosa deal to really still understand why they kicked him out of the game.
The call was kicking. He was
but he was trying to. No, he wasn't kicking the players. He was kicking, trying to get up.
He was trying to get leverage to get up off of those 2
that's what he's trying to do. He had 2 big old dudes laying on him. I'm like, really? We called that a wow, and so anyway, like I said, sometimes you get this. They're just a jinx to us. I hope we don't see them. I don't want to ever see that officiating crew again, period.
The guys on the board affectionately call that the Obama ref crew.
Yeah.
Because the head ref kind of looks like a doppelganger for President Obama. So, I don't know. We're not talking politics. It's just an observation.
You get
speaking of ref, you all remember
Sorry, what was that, Ryan?
You get 10 points for using the word doppelganger.
Oh, thanks.
Good job.
Yahtzee.
I always
Sorry,
get
Wes, what were you saying?
when I think of Gary Patterson when he was named head football coach at TCU at his opening press conference. Somebody asked him about referees, and anybody remember what he said about all referees?
No, I don't. But was it had something to do with a duck and a bird call or something?
No. But he just said they're all communist. And he just I never forget that because that was really. I mean, Gary was not very good at public speaking in those days. And
has he improved?
He was. There was a directness and honesty about him that was pretty refreshing. But he just said they're all communist. And so that was next question. So anyway, I always thought that was funny, and so far the refs haven't proved him wrong, in my opinion.
No,
well,
they haven't.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how the psych is for our kids. I mean, I really believe that they're going to think that was a one-time, once in a blue moon type game that Oklahoma did to them.
Yeah,
and I don't think that they think that can be done like that again. I mean,
yeah.
And I mean, I hope that's the way they go out there, because if they don't go out there anyway, but with that attitude, then it could be a long night. But I just have a feeling, I'm knowing a few of the players, just listen to them talk and stuff like that. They're, they've been anxious about this week. They, slowly, I talked to 3 or 4 of them, and they just mentioned just little tidbits. They're all about planning the week, the moment, that game, and then. But boy, they are excited to get back to Oklahoma again.
Well, the biggest thing though that's going to be working against Oklahoma is that this TCU team that they're going to face next weekend is probably going to be the toughest opponent they're going to face all season long, because this team has nothing. They don't have nothing to worry about. I mean, nothing to lose in this game. They have everything to play for and nothing to lose. They are the most dangerous team you can possibly face on the football field. Yeah. And not only that, but you beat them the first time and you beat them pretty badly, and they want payback.
Yep. And
again, it doesn't matter. Hey, if we lose, we still go to a good bowl game. But if we beat you, we ruin your season. We ruin your Heisman chances. We get to, tee off on your quarterback. And, oh, yeah, by the way, we're going to get a New Year's Six bowl. So, I mean, TCU right now is going to be a very dangerous team for OU. And I'm feeling really good about this game. I'm not going to say I feel confident, but I feel real good. I don't feel nervous at all like I did the week leading up to Norman. I'm feeling pretty good, and I think this team's going to come out and prove us all right that they're going to beat in Oklahoma, and I think we're going to win the Big 12.
Well, like you said, you hit it on the nail. I mean, head on the nail by saying that we have nothing to lose. So it's kind of like. I mean, they've got everything to lose. I mean, really, when you look at the two teams at this point in time, and so we can take every chance. Where
the pressure's on them.
Where they have to think about it. They have to think about it. Do I really want to get, 4th down and 3 on my, on their 40-yard line? Do I want to punt it, or do I want to go for it? Do I want to give a short field? Whereas our thinking can be, hey, let's just get it. Let's go for anything. Let's, I don't know if Patterson will, but he has the opportunity to really open up the offense and get after them on defense and say, hey, if we're going to lose, at least let's lose in style and let's get after them, and show that, and that's what I think he's going to do. It's what I think we'll do on offense too.
Gary has shown in the past he will do those things.
Yep.
I mean, let's not forget that that game in West Virginia a couple of years ago where he went for 2 late in the game to win the darn thing.
Yep. And
that was a gutsy. And as your brother said to him, you've got, pardon my language, Ryan, you've got balls of steel there, Gary. And Patterson just laughed after the game. But it was but he'll do it. He's not afraid of it. But it's got to be the right situation.
Well, yeah. That Oklahoma game. What, last year, 2 years? What was it? 2 years ago when we were in Norman.
Yep.
Yeah, we went for 2. I mean, Patterson has shown that he doesn't. If his back's against the wall, he has nothing to lose. He'll pull out all the stops, and he won't play conservatively.
And this is definitely all. I mean, really, realistically, I think. I'm not saying we're out of the Final Four, but Alabama. This is probably the only time I've pulled for Alabama. because Auburn beating Alabama, that Auburn team, they're the 2-loss team. They're the favorite 2-loss team going in it, period.
Yeah.
And now you have 1-loss teams, 2-loss team filling a 1-loss team spot, or a no-loss team actually too, So anyway, I just think that did so it even makes it us more on the deal of, all we're doing is playing for what bowl game we're going to, and at the end of the day, you might as well pull out all the stops. If you're going to lose it. Like I said, lose it and get after it, and using everything you got.
Well, as a quick aside, not necessarily a rant, but a quick aside about the college football playoffs. I've been calling them the college football invitational because I honestly don't care about it anymore, to be honest with you. And the reason why is because like I said before, the criteria is so convoluted. It's completely fluid. There's no consistency in anything that they actually do. The criteria that they used to keep TCU out of it in 2014, they used to quantify another team being in the top 4 this week. So I mean, it's the stupidest thing you've ever seen. And unless you have an automatic buy-in for conference champions, it's not a true playoff.
Yep.
It's not. I mean, you can call it a playoff all you want, but what it is a bunch of guys sitting around in a room talking about who knows what and coming up with who knows what to justify 4 teams that they think that they need to have in a playoff. Yep. And whatever they say goes. I mean, if they wanted to pick somebody from number 20 and put them in the top 4, and then come some sort of convoluted roundabout flow chart as far as how they're in the top 4, well, then that's it. That's they're in the top 4.
Well, Sean, do you think the NCAA had anything to do with that? Because the NCAA doesn't run college football. ESPN does.
No. Well, TV dollars certainly play a very strong role, I would say. Mm-hmm. But for me personally, it's whenever they announce this 4-team playoff, because they've always been about this plus one back in the BCS days. And it's not, to me, it's not a true playoff. It's not equitable. I mean, it doesn't matter what sport you're talking about. Every other sport that has a playoff, if you win the conference championship, you're in the playoffs, period.
Yeah.
So, I mean, unless you're going to have a spot for every single conference champion, it's not a true playoff.
Yeah.
It's an invitational. And so, for me, it's like, if TCU ends up at, 11-2, winning the Big 12, and we don't get invited to the 4-team playoff, well, again, it's not a playoff. I want to win the Big 12 championship. That should always be, for me, at the very, very top. Get to the championship, win the championship, go to a bowl game, win the bowl game. And until they decide to expand it to, like, say, at least an 8-team playoff, where, and I hate this because, we came from the quote unquote mid-major ranks, or whatever denigrating term you want to call it. I hate the whole Power 5 G5 thing. I mean, if you're going to do a playoff and you're going to say these Power 5 are the only 5 conferences that are worthy of a true playoff, okay, fine, but at least make it where all 5 conference champions are in the playoff, and then you can have a committee to dick around and figure out what the next 3 teams are going to be in there for wild card spots or whatever you want to call it. That's a playoff. What they've got now is not a playoff.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the other thing. I would say that we should be looked upon as being having the purest conference there is, really, because we play everybody. Period. Here we are playing Oklahoma again. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen some in the SEC at times and this and that when they not knowing who they're going to play that year in the cross rival. And the Big Ten does the same thing in Pac-12, so they can always, but really they're fighting for the end of the year just to win their side, or you'll be one of the top, their side. But in our conference, we play everybody once. And then I just think I think it even makes it tougher. Hey, if Oklahoma ends up winning this thing, I think they deserve to be in because they beat us twice. I mean, they had to turn back around and beat the team that finished right behind them again. Mm-hmm. Or the chances are, I'm going to say the chances are we're going to knock them off, and then we're going to be penalized for that. That we have the same guys playing each other twice. And,
you talking about we as a conference or we as TCU?
Well, we as a conference and we as TCU. I mean, either way. I mean, now Oklahoma's always going to get a certain amount of status that that TCU's not. I mean, they've shown that, but our conference still. I mean, that's the thing that drives me crazy is don't tell me that Alabama's played the toughest schedule or Wisconsin has when 90% of the people say, well, Wisconsin hasn't played anybody yet.
Well, Sarrigan will disagree with you. Sarrigan actually says that Alabama has one of the worst strength of schedule in the top 25.
Well, and I agree. That's what I'm saying, though. So Alabama this year, their side of the deal is not very good. I mean, I agree. And so there's not they don't really have to me, they don't really have a true conference champion in that sense. No.
And I'll be honest with you. If the season ended like it did last year, Oklahoma, hands down, conference champion.
Yep.
They only lost to Iowa State, and they beat everybody else. And I love the round robin format because it kind of brings the conference together, and it brings out rivalries that you wouldn't normally get, like you do out of the SEC and the Big Ten, where it's kind of a popcorn kind of a schedule. But the rules, everybody wanted to have this conference championship game because of what happened in 2014. We've got it now. We're in it now. So if we win, the rules say whoever wins this game is the conference champion. And I think if you go back, I mean, Oklahoma probably has a better strength of schedule argument than TCU does if both of them end up with 2 losses at the end of the season. But I would rather just win the conference at this point. Yeah. For me, it's not about the playoffs.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I want to win the conference too, but I still think that there ought to be a certain amount of consideration, just like the negativity came because we didn't have that +1. Well, now we're playing round robin. We play everybody in our conference, unlike all the other big conferences, and then we have our +1 again.
Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing about our +1 just 2 guys playing against each other again that have already played in the regular season. Now we're getting to play Oklahoma on a neutral turf, neutral this, and so now it's going to be interesting to see if they, if that advantage of playing at Oklahoma, now we got them on neutral, if that kind of cuts everything back to even, So that's what makes it interesting about that game. But all I'm really saying is I agree totally with everything you're saying. But I think that the committee ought to look at our conference, and maybe that's just stupid bias on my part. But we actually play everybody once. We don't leave anybody out. We don't get to be Alabama, and I'm not picking on that because Alabama's no doubt they're talented, but their side has not been as strong this year.
Well, and we don't play cupcakes in November. What did Alabama play the other week? Mercer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that, while everyone else is playing a tough conference schedule, the big, the SEC is scheduling cupcakes in November.
Well, that hurt us back when we got knocked out. We kicked and they were in our conference. I mean, but that was one of the big things. But like you said, Sean, they'll make up. It's too convoluted. They'll, and of course they rotate people in and out. So when you get a new group of guys, they can just decide what the new rules are for that year.
Yeah. I mean, that's the issue. There's nothing that's laid out that says if you do this, you're in. It's if you do this week, you're in. If you do this that week, you're not in. If you do the same thing 2 weeks from now, but somebody else did it in a slightly different way and it was a blue moon and the referee was standing on one leg when he threw a flag, then you're in. It's like, what? It makes no sense. Like, oh, well, these guys played early. Okay. Well, you have a body clock. What is that? You had a quality loss. What's a quality loss? I mean, you had all these different criteria that just going to float around and it just doesn't make any sense. And that's the problem.
It's like a lot of things in sports. They overthink it and overanalyze it. Just go with what you said. Take the conference champion, put them in a playoff, and be done with it.
But I agree with you. I think that eventually this will eventually push it to 8 teams. When they figure it out, that's what eventually is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not like you can't add an extra week in there. I mean, they've got how many weeks between the end of the end of this, next week, the first week of December and the first week of January when they start all these things. I mean, you got plenty of time to play an extra game in there.
Yeah,
or extra weeks of game. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. And if it is that big of a deal, we'll go back to an 11-game schedule.
Yeah.
You know, take away one of the cupcake games and make the schedule more interesting. Plus, you know, if
Now
you have the last thing I'll
you're
say,
taking revenue away from ESPN.
I know. See, yeah, the almighty dollar. But you know, and you know, the other thing is that lost my train of thought. There you go. It's been a long
That's
week.
all right. Mine derailed years ago. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's all good. But you know, it's just, to me, it just makes more sense to have an actual automatic playoff, you know, a true playoff, than to have an invitational. But if TCU, if there's some sort of a weird, crazy flow chart that gets TCU into the playoff, I'll be ecstatic. But for right now, let's beat OU. Let's win the conference championship. Maybe go to the Sugar Bowl. I'd love to be able to spend New Year's in New Orleans. Great.
Yep.
Who wouldn't, right? All right. So with that slight rant that kind of took us off off topic, pardon me about that. Let's talk about predictions in this game. So at this point in time, we usually go around the Big 12, but since the only two teams that are playing this week are going to be OU and TCU, let's go ahead and just jump straight to our scores. Ryan, what do you think is going to be the final score in this game?
Oh boy. I've not given this a whole lot of thought, unfortunately. I think in order for us to win, our defense is going to have to shut them out as closely as possible, and our offense is obviously going to have to score. So I think for us to win, it's going to have to be a low-scoring game and not the reverse. So I'm going to say, let's hold OU to 21, and TCU is going to be, oh gosh, 24.
Wow. Field goal by Cole Bunce.
Yeah, he did good. He did well last week. I was proud of him.
He didn't do too bad, yeah. All right, Wes, what do you think?
Well, I agree with Ryan. I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring, but you know what? If we can shut them out in the second half as we did in that last game, we can shut them out, or at least put the brakes on them here throughout an entire game. I'm going to say 28-17.
All right.
TCU.
All right, Dubber.
I think it's going to be a little higher scoring, but I think we go into it. I'm going to go into it like I thought about Oklahoma State. Hold them under 30, we win the game. So I'm gonna say 38-28.
Ooh.
I'm with you on the higher scoring, but I'm going to go 42-21 TCU. We win 3 scores.
Well,
that's
I hope
good.
you're right.
I hope you're right too. I mean, I hope you're right.
And I think the vast majority of all 21 points for Oklahoma is going to be scored in the first half.
How many sacks are we going to get?
I'm expecting at least 3 sacks in this game.
Them 3, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I'm going to say 3 sacks.
I'm gonna go.
I'd love for Bosa to go off like he did last week, but I don't think. I think that was just a combination of playing Baylor and Bosa just in beast mode. I totally expect Bosa and Bandigood to show up big in this game, but I don't think it's going to be a 5-sack game. So I don't think Mayfield is going to stay back there like Brewer did against us.
I hope they double team Bosa and free up Bandigood to go in there and get those 5.5 sacks.
Yeah.
So,
well, they're going to have to do something because Bosa made himself known, and they didn't get to see him the entire game last time in Norman. So you got to know Mike Stoops, the idiot that he is probably thinking, if I can just stop Bosa, that's all I need to do, and completely forgetting about Bandigood on the other side. So
don't tell him.
Mike Stoops doesn't know how to work the internet. What are you talking about? He can't listen to podcasts. The guy can't even throw a stapler right.
This is true.
Anyway, no, I think this game is going to be, we're going to come out, we're going to play loose, we're going to play fast, we're going to play hard, and I think Oklahoma's just going to be sitting there at halftime going, what in the world? We are just in a dogfight. And I think in the second half, we're just going to run away with it. I think the defense is just going to tighten down. I think Mayfield is I think that pressure is finally going to catch up with Mayfield in the second half. I might be wrong. I thought that was going to happen in Norman, but we shut him down in the second half in Norman. But I think, Mayfield's thinking Heisman, playoffs, I'm the best, I'm the greatest. And I think, when you give Gary Patterson, like you said, Dubber, you give him 2 chances to game plan for you. This is going to be a very, very deadly game, and we have nothing to lose.
Yeah, that might be the biggest. To me, that might be the biggest factor right there. We can play loose, and we can play. We can truly play to win, and just pull out all stops. And so that's why we're going to score 38.
I hope you guys are right.
I think we're going to get over 40 in this one.
I know, but
I like your prediction too. If we can hold them under 30 and we can score over 30, of course, I'm happy. Anything we can get to a win, I'll be happy with. Yeah. Even if it's Ryan's white knuckle game of 24-21.
Gosh, I know.
Yeah, and Cole Bunce makes a game-winning field goal.
If we win that 24-21 like that, then I'd love that game. Because that's the great game you want to be able to say that you sat and watched. But I'd really rather be about 45-7.
Me too.
I feel a lot better about it all.
Sure.
Yeah. Go to halftime thinking, all right, we just get to party and have a good time in the second half.
Me too.
Yep. I agree. Yeah. The key to this game, no penalties, or very, very few penalties. Can't be shooting yourself in the foot that way. We've got to find something special team wise, kicking wise. Bunce has done a good job, but I think we're going to need to find somebody who can kick the ball over 40 yards. Because we got to have at least a threat.
Sure?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Nobody knows what's up with Song. We've heard rumor after rumor after rumor. Some of them I'm not even going to they're not even worth mentioning. But all we know is he has a lower body injury. And why he's not kicking, he didn't even warm up last week against Baylor. I mean, you had Hatfield out there, David out there, Bunce, and who's it, Graff?
Yeah,
that were all kicking out there, and they all looked good. They were all kicking from the 35-yard line consistently, but nobody really had that kind of loft and distance on the ball that Song showed early on in the season. So, I don't know, but Bunce has done a good job filling in.
No,
I have no problem with Bunce as the kicker.
Well,
so we'll see.
One thing, not to be kind of halfway ended in here, but I'm just proud of our guys. 10-2.
Yeah.
Hey, where'd we come from last year to this year? And what were we picked in the conference? 5th?
Something like that, yeah.
Something 4th, 5th, 6th, some that, and it hadn't been a deal where everybody's thinking, oh man, they had some close games and got lucky. I mean, we've had one bad game that we lost. I mean, one bad half of a game that we lost, and then we didn't play great, but I think Iowa State played pretty good. And then I think we take care of business every other game. I mean, pretty much taking care of business the whole way through. And so, I'm just excited about the next 2 games because, I think our kids deserve whatever they get here, because they've worked hard at it. They turned it around, and good thing is I think this is going to be I think this is not totally a building year, but I think in some ways it is. I mean, we have a lot of key components coming back next year, and so I'm just excited the way the seasons went so far. And, of course we'd all love to be in the Final Four. Don't get me wrong, but like you said, we win the conference championship, and then we play wherever we get to play. Sheesh, what a year!
Yeah.
No
Amen.
kidding.
Amen. Yeah, I couldn't be prouder of these guys because they've worked really hard in the offseason. It showed they have a family mentality.
Yep.
And they've come into this game and they've played as a unit, as a team. And there hasn't been any showboating. There hasn't been any craziness, outside of the locker room. And so far it's paid off. And the young guys have learned and grown a lot. And that just it's just going to show to what we're going to be able to do next year. And I love to see these guys go out on a high note these next couple of games.
Exactly.
And who knows? I mean, if chips fall wherever crazier things have happened. I mean, Miami lost, Notre Dame lost, Alabama lost this weekend. Who knows what may happen next weekend? But, if they get to play 2 games more or 3 games more, it doesn't matter which one. However they go, I hope they go out on a high note. So, they deserve it.
I might be crazy. I don't think it's strange. I think we're beating Oklahoma. I just don't know what the score is. I really do. Second round. Patterson's going to prove me right. He's going to make me look smart and say that about all that about he doesn't get.
Well, that'd be the first
the
time.
same way. I know exactly, exactly. Hey, I started off picking pretty decent. Then it started hitting at the toilet at the end of the year.
You need to make more crazy predictions there.
Yeah, well, I know exactly.
Follow my lead, or not. All right, so that takes us down to the end of the podcast, which means it's time again for Player or Coach of the Week. By now, you guys know how this works. Each of us picks a Player or Coach of the Week, and we will start this week with Wes. Wes, who do you have for Player or Coach of the Week?
Well, I got to go with the Killer B playing the left side of that defensive end, and that's going to be Matt Boson. I mean, 5.5 sacks, TCU record. He's my Player of the Week.
Excellent. Ryan?
I'm going to go with volleyball, Jill Kramer and her girls for ending their I know their season wasn't exactly what they wanted it to be, but what a great way to end it with a sweep at OU, hoping that sets the tone for us, the football team, this coming weekend.
Good pick. Good pick. Yeah, I know the volleyball team was disappointed with the way that the season went, but yeah, talk about going out on a high note by sweeping Oklahoma. That was fantastic. Yeah.
Was Oklahoma right?
I don't remember, but it was a surprise for everybody that TCU swept them. That was a really good play.
They came from behind all three times. They came from behind, so that's really good.
3 games. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really good. So, hopefully, look it up. Maybe the volleyball had a year like we did in football last year. Maybe next year will be their 2017 campaign. So that'll be nice. Dubber, who do you have? Player or Coach of the Week?
Well, I'm a purist, so I'm going back to, I love what basketball did this weekend, and I love what Jill did, but I got to go back to Bosa. When you break a record that's been around that long, I got to give him my attaboy all week long. Give it to him, and at least till the next game, and then it starts all over again.
Yeah.
So he won the Dubber Award this week.
Oh, no doubt. Unbelievable.
Now, Boson was fantastic. And if Boson didn't have his 5 sacks and the game still ended 45-22 like it did, I think we're all talking Kenny Hill today. Because Kenny Hill had an absolutely amazing game. He was on fire, and he needs to do that again next week for TCU to have a chance to beat Oklahoma. And, he didn't look like a guy who had missed because of concussion and wasn't in practice very much. I mean, he came out, he looked great from the very beginning. But, Boson stole his thunder, and 5.5 sacks. I'm with you guys. And as much as I love what Dixon's doing, starting off 6-0, and what Reagan Peebley's doing with the women's team, and of course Joel Kramer, I got to give it to Boson too. I mean, 5.5 sacks. I mean, you can't ignore that, breaking records and just breaking the will of Baylor. It's just it's worth it right then and there. So Matt Boson's my player of the game. And that brings us to the end of the podcast. I want to thank everybody for listening to us. I know we ran a little long. And this week, if you guys, we had a couple people kind of pop in and out. You may have noticed we actually are doing some tests here. We're going to probably start doing this podcast as a live stream on Sunday nights when we actually record this, even though the podcast is released on Tuesday. We'll have a little bit more information about that on KillerFrogs.com when that's ready to go, but that'll also be on our YouTube page. In the meantime, though, you can listen to us on the podcast where all podcasts are available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. If you are on iTunes, please head on over there and give us a 5-star review. We'd greatly appreciate that. And of course, you can find us on social media. We are on Twitter and Instagram at @killer_frogs and on Facebook.com/KillerFrogs. And of course, you can join the Killer Frogs online at KillerFrogs.com and join one of the largest online communities for TCU fans to discuss sports. And with that, we are at the time where we all say,
Go Frogs!
Go Frogs! Go Frogs!